And last, but certainly not least, I think it's just very important that I speak on this topic a little bit. Uh, the tragedy that occurred in Texas um, last week. Uh, it's it's painful. I don't want to, and I mean, at this point, it's been the actual events of what happened that day is something that the tragic part of it is like, we're talking elementary school kids. We're talking uh, all of that stuff is very real, and I think now more than ever we're seeing just so much of the aftermath of it. We're seeing so much more of the impact of it. Uh, we're seeing, we're, all the stories. Um, it's the stories of the parents. Like I saw some posts from the parents of the children, and just like them, like their heartache. And I mean, as a father of an elementary school age child, it's yeah, it's very very easy for me to empathize with this one. Um, I saw the story of the little girl who covered herself in the blood of a classmate so that she could survive, so that the shooter could presume her dead, and that worked. So she's still alive. Uh, I saw the story of the husband of one of the teachers who uh days later he passed away of a heart attack, which was just triggered from him being so grief stricken from having lost his wife. Like, and I think the tough part here is it's it's hard to see situations like this, and it's like it's not the first time that we've seen this, and every time that we do see this we say that something's got to change, and then it's a cycle. We say something's got to change, something else happens, we move on before that change happens, we forget about the change that we said needed to happen, something happens again, and then we say something's got to change. It's a cycle. We continue to live in this cycle, and where it's it's difficult to see. I've I've grown very numb to the way that I handle seeing the injustices of people who look like me. You can show me, uh, tell me all about the man who was unjustly murdered for doing something extremely mundane and normal. He was pulled over in a traffic stop, and somehow, some way, the officer felt threatened, drew his weapon, and killed him. I've grown numb to all of that shit. I really have. I I've learned to I've learned to manage the injustices of people who look like me. As far as just like the way that I balance that out in my mind, so that I don't feel so traumatized by it, and me being able to still be a functioning member of society in that sense. I mean, and it isn't saying that I don't think it's horrible. It is. It's completely horrible. But it's just more so saying this is how I can carry the burden and it not crumble me, is by having just a certain level of numbness to it. So that's how I cope with the injustices against people who look like me. The the part that I'm struggling with as it pertains to this incident is I don't know how to cope with injustices made against people who look like my son. That's tough. That's a difficult one. See, I'm I'm a grown adult male. I'm a grown adult, uh, rather fit male who can take care of himself, defend himself, and can overcome a lot himself in the world. But our children and our elderly are our most vulnerable population. So seeing injustices against them will always uh, be a triggering point for me and for many people, I can say. And I think that's the part that makes this hard to, uh, it makes this one hard. This one's hard. Um, it took a toll on me mentally, just kind of thinking. I thought a lot about my son, because even again the following day that it happened, I remember. Well, first off, the day that it happened, I remember picking up my son from school, and very much, uh, it was one of those days where when you put him to bed, you hug him a little tighter, you know, and and then I remember the following morning dropping him off at an elementary school, being very, very just like, it was there. It was in my mind. I wasn't able to really focus at work that day. I remember telling a couple of my colleagues, like, yo, my mind is just not, it's not here. It's hard for me to not think of my son right now, you know? So I think something's got to change. Something really does. Like, I know something has to change. It does. It just does. For the sake of this next generation. So, it I saw a post on social media that just said, like, enough thoughts and prayers, we need policy and change. That's how I feel about it. Enough thoughts and prayers, we need policy and change. So this is for all those affected. All those affected in this tragic um, situation, this tragic incident. There have been a lot of like stories that have been coming out. I don't want to necessarily speak too much to them because I just have not been able to do as much research on them, so I'm not as informed on all of them as it pertains to um, the police officer's conduct and how long the the incident took place and how long it took for officers to get in there. And I just been reading a lot of different things, and a lot of it is just like social. I don't know if it's social media noise or what's the truth to it, but I just wanted to like, I'll revisit that maybe next week. Maybe next week I'll talk a little bit about that part of it. Right. So as always, some ships float, some ships sink, but the best ships are friendships. And to those ships, we drink. Cheers, y'all. See y'all next week. As always, peace, love, and all the above. I'm out.